The Athletic and TalkSport have both stated that Tottenham appreciate Crystal Palace and England star Eze, but that is it, nothing further. TalkSport have also stated that Spurs are now working very hard to sign West Ham star Mohammed Kudus for £60 million, despite him having an £85 million release clause, and TalkSport also stated that the player has been offered to two other Premier League clubs, despite him talking to Tottenham. Spurs target Antoine Semenyo has just signed a new contract with Bournemouth. The Bill Nicholson gates will be installed at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium before the start of the new Premier League campaign. And the Sun are stating that Richarlison could leave Spurs this summer for as low as £20 million. Hi everyone, hope you're well. Chris Cowlin here. This is another episode of Tottenham News, where I'll be going for all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. Now, I just want to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to every single one of you who pressed that play button on YouTube throughout the month of June. 5.1 million views in June. A ball wasn't even kicked, and you have pressed play, listening to me talk about Spurs and watch the other content that we put on this channel. Now, we are actually the fifth most viewed channel on YouTube, a dedicated fan channel behind United Stand, Anfield Agenda, AFTV and Stretford Paddock. And we are very proud to be fifth. So thank you so much for all of your incredible support. Now, I would actually like to invite a lot of you onto the channel. If you'd like to join me and some of the other channel regulars to come on, talk about Spurs, to come on one of the fan shows, or indeed a post-match or a match preview, the Spurs Chat Podcast, you are very welcome. Please do send me an email. It is tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. It would be great to have you on. So let's start by talking about Mohammed Kudus and his possible move to Tottenham. Italian journalist and transfer expert Eberechi Eze has just stated that talks between Mohammed Kudus and Tottenham on project and personal terms are underway. Positive approach. Mohammed Kudus is open to joining Spurs while talks continue with both the player and West Ham sides. There are two more clubs still involved in the race. Eberechi Eze has also stated throughout Tuesday Mohammed Kudus and his agents have been talking to Tottenham, and the player is open to joining Spurs, and Tottenham are working really hard on this deal to try and give the player to Thomas Frank for the start of the brand new season. TalkSport have just reported on this story, and they are stating that Mohammed Kudus has also been offered to Chelsea and Manchester United by West Ham United, but Spurs view the player as a top priority this summer for Thomas Frank. They believe that West Ham United will sell the player for around £60 million, despite him having a release clause of £85 million, and Spurs really appreciated Eze, but nothing was ever advanced with Crystal Palace for the England international. Now, talking about Crystal Palace and England star Eze, David Ornstein from The Athletic has stated that Arsenal put Eze high among options to bolster their attack. No contact with Crystal Palace as yet. Unclear if he needs exit, but serious candidate and separate to striker and winger. Arsenal Football Club would look to pay below release clause. And David Ornstein then goes on to say that Tottenham Hotspur Football Club are not pursuing Eze for now. The Sun newspaper have just reported that Richarlison is set to leave the Premier League as he looks to reset his career overseas. The injury-stricken Brazilian will be allowed to leave Tottenham after the new boss, Thomas Frank, gave the green light for his exit. He is expected to head to Turkey and sign for Galatasaray. They have also been chasing Victor Osimhen, but that deal is now looking difficult to get over the line, so their attention has now switched back to the Brazilian international who plays for Spurs, who could be available for just £20 million. million. Another option would be a loan deal for Richarlison, although Spurs are believed to prefer the idea of a permanent switch. Now, in the last couple of weeks, Spurs have been heavily interested in Antoine Semenyo of Bournemouth, and they were told that if they wanted to sign the Bournemouth star, they would need to pay at least £65 million. Spurs were not prepared to pay that kind of figure. Well, today it has just been announced by Bournemouth that Antoine Semenyo has signed a new 5-year contract at Bournemouth. The forward scored 11 goals and provided 5 assists in the Premier League for them last season. Now, finally, and I say finally because a lot of people expected this to happen when the stadium opened back in April 2019, the Bill Nicholson gates will finally be installed at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium before the start of the new Premier League campaign. They will be situated near the ticket office, not near the hotel as previously discussed. Now for a couple of quick stories. James Maddison has a new tattoo. It is of the Europa League. It is on the back of his left leg and it says Winners 2025. Luka Vušković is now officially a Spurs player, having signed the deal from the 1st of July 2025. And The Athletic have just reported that Spurs have explored the possibility of adding another fullback in this summer transfer window. Now, my thoughts on everything in this episode, and I'm going to start by saying a big thank you again to the 5.1 million viewers throughout June. It is unbelievable, and I'm sorry to mention it again, but I just find these stats simply incredible. When I started this channel, it was basically me getting my phone out of my pocket, covering the stadium demolition and then the stadium build, White Hart Lane to the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And that's how this channel started. If you are new here, that is exactly how I started. And then it just went on by me doing more and more videos on this channel and now talking about news stories, etc. every single day. And I really enjoy it. I know some people get fed up with so many episodes being published about transfer rumours, etc. What I would say to you guys, if you don't like the transfer rumours, perhaps switch off for the next 60 days or so, because I think it's about 61 days left of the transfer window. And I know there will be a lot of rumours, reports, stories, etc. coming out. So if you are frustrated by it, I'll see you in a couple of months' time. But if you are staying with me, then thank you for staying with me. And thank you for being one of those 5.1 million viewers to press that play button in June. I just find these stats unbelievable. And when we're up there with some of these huge channels, with multiple staff and multiple people working for them, when we get figures like this, it is just mind-blowing. So thank you so much for all of your incredible support. Now, of course, this channel started by me covering the demolition of White Hart Lane and then the new stadium build. And that's exactly where I'm going to start, the Bill Nicholson gates. People have been asking for the last, 5-6 years about what's happening to the Bill Nicholson gates. Now, there were plans that they were going to be a part of the hotel when built, and now that has changed. They are actually going to be up by the ticket office on the other side of the stadium, by the high road, which is going to be absolutely brilliant. And it is definitely going to be one of those landmarks where everyone is going to want to visit and everyone's going to have a photo with it. And, I think this is absolutely wonderful. People like Bill Nicholson should be all over our stadium. And I know a lot of people on social media, since I published this story a couple of hours ago, are stating, where is the statue? Absolutely, Spurs should be looking at statues of real legends of the football club like Bill Nicholson, that we should definitely have a statue of Bill Nicholson outside the stadium. But this is a really, really good start. And I noticed that a lot of people have said, Vinay Venkatesham coming in has had a big part of this. He probably has had a bit part in it, but in all honesty, this was actually in the plans last year as well for this to happen. Perhaps he's rushed it along a little bit, which is great. And from what I understand, these are actually going to be installed, before the start of the new season. And you can imagine every single person, it don't matter how old anyone is, everyone's going to stop and have a photograph with those famous gates from the old stadium, Bill Nicholson gates, as they're known. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing those installed at the new stadium. And I love the way that the new stadium has incorporated, and I've spoken about this a lot over the years, how they incorporated a lot of the old stadium into the new stadium. It just adds a lot of real class. And that's what makes our stadium, so special and very, very different to other stadiums. Richarlison possibly moving for £20 million. I'm not sure whether I believe this figure, £20 million. I don't think that Spurs are going to be letting a player like Richarlison go for £20 million, especially when we paid £60 million for him only a couple of years ago. I do feel like Richarlison's time is up at Spurs, and I would like to see him leave the football club and do really well. As a person, I think Richarlison is one of the best. So good with the fans, etc. But on the pitch, I just feel like he needs a new challenge. I feel like Spurs need to go in a different direction. And I will remember if Richarlison does leave this summer, I will remember Richarlison for playing out of his skin in the Europa League final and having probably the best game in a Spurs shirt in that game. And as I said, I love Richarlison as a person, as a player. I just feel like he has been very wasteful in the few years that he's been with us. When he's been on the pitch, he did go for a spell where he did go for a really good goal scoring run. But we need that to last a lot longer. And he has had so many injury issues, and I just feel like he needs a new challenge. And as I said, I feel like Spurs need to go in a different direction. Antoine Semenyo signing a new contract. I don't think Spurs were ever going to pay £65 million for Semenyo. They clearly wanted a cheaper price. Eze, I'm a little bit gutted about this, but then again, I've spoken about Eze since 2019 on this channel when he played for QPR and Spurs were linked with him then. We didn't want to pay the money then when he was a QPR player. We haven't wanted to pay the money in recent transfer windows when he's been a Crystal Palace player. We don't want to pay the money now when he's an England international. So I don't feel like we're ever going to get this Eze deal over the line. I feel like this is just going to be another Jack Grealish situation where we've been linked with a player for so many windows, so many years, and we're just not going to get it over the line. This is an interesting one, though. Mohammed Kudus, £60 million. He's got a release clause of £85 million. West Ham are trying to, sell him to other clubs, including Chelsea, etc. Manchester United, I think, is the other one. TalkSport are stating that Spurs are working very hard to get this deal done. This is a player that we have been linked with in the past. This is a player that we have been linked with when he wasn't a West Ham player, and also when he was a West Ham player. So what I would like to say, and I did say this on a previous episode, but I'll say it again, I would like to see Thomas Frank actually say what he wants, because at the end of the day, this is his squad. I know the club make a lot of decisions, but I do feel like Thomas Frank does need to be involved in the choosing of these players. Mohammed Kudus clearly isn't a Thomas Frank choice. It is a club choice, and they have just okayed it with Thomas Frank. I feel like a new manager a lot of the time will go, yeah, okay, he's a good player. We've seen Thomas Frank a lot of the time come out and say that, he works with what he's got. But I just want to have that involvement from the manager. I feel like Ange Postecoglou would have had a lot more of a say in players. So it's going to be interesting going forward to see what other players we do target, and it'll be interesting to see whether Spurs do get this deal over the line. £60 million, and it does kind of raise the question. Why wouldn't they sign Semenyo for £65 million? Why would they not want to sign Eze for £68 million when they can pay in instalments? From what I understand with the Kudus deal, they would be paying this in instalments as well. So if you were to choose which player, Eze, Mohammed Kudus or Antoine Semenyo, which one would you choose? I've seen a lot of mixed reports and a lot of mixed reviews on Mohammed Kudus. I've looked at the player. I looked at the player before. I think he's a really, really decent player, probably what Spurs need in terms of ball carrying, dribbling, etc. We know that he can beat players. We know that he can assist. We know that he can score. But are there better players out there? Can we get more experienced players to come in straight away? I know that some people are doubting. Of course, you're never, ever going to please a whole fan base. You go on any social media site, including X, you're never, ever going to have everyone agree. And it's always going to be very, very mixed, as, is the opinion on Mohammed Kudus here. But, it'll be interesting to see whether Spurs do get the deal done. It'll be interesting to see whether West Ham do actually deal with Spurs, because we haven't dealt with them, for transfers for some time. I think Scott Parker was the last one, which was some time ago. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether we get that deal done at £60 million. And also what will be interesting is to see whether we do actually get in any experienced players, because Mohammed Kudus is only 24, still another young player we are signing. Yes, he has a little bit of Premier League experience, but is it enough experience going into a Champions League season? And, is it enough experience that we are bringing in, wanting to climb that Premier League table? Because even Ange Postecoglou, towards the end of his Spurs career, he was saying in those last few press conferences, this window is about experience. This is what is going to be interesting to me to see what the club want to do. Are they going to be bringing in experience, or is it again about planning for those next few years? When Daniel Levy and the board says that we want to win the Champions League and we want to win the Premier League, when are they talking about? Are they talking about this year? Are they talking about next year? Are they talking about 5 years down the line? That is going to be the interesting question. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit the follow button and leave a review if you can. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe and well. Come on, you Spurs.